Hey, it's Dr. Charles, aka CoachMD. In my over 30 years of medical practice, I've made it my goal to help you create a great life by achieving a strong mind, a healthy body, and an unshakable spirit. Today, I want to talk to you about rejection. What do we do when we're rejected? It's so hard to move on. We just don't figure it out. We can't figure it out what happened. But here are some stories of people who have been successful of moving on despite rejection, some of the tools that you might be able to use. Since everyone gets rejected, here's what our readers learn from their toughest ones. The year after I graduated from college, my days followed a familiar pattern. Each day I woke up on my sister's couch and opened my laptop to a color coded job hunt spreadsheet. Yellow meant waiting to hear back, red meant rejected, usually delivered in the form of a polite but curt email. Each rejection felt searingly personal, an indictment of who I was as a person, an artist, and a journalist. Green meant accepted, though that color remained elusive. I knew I wasn't alone in the constant stream of "we regret to inform you" messages flooding my inbox, but it sure felt like it, especially because my Twitter algorithm kept suggesting I might be interested in tweets from people who got the jobs I was just rejected from. Ooh, that hurts. When I confided this feeling to my friend Andy, someone I've long admired for her own achievements, she expressed that she felt the same and added reassurance. Behind each success you see from others is a slew of rejections, too, she said. It's like a ghost resume, and it's true. We don't see the struggles that people have. All we see is the highlight reel, right? When we look either on television or media, we see or social media especially, we see the highlight reels of people's lives because that's what they showcase. We don't see the struggles, and everybody struggles. As I've said, kindness is the understanding that we all struggle. The image has stuck with me ever since. Now, every time I see a job announcement on social media or read a resume, I imagine that the even longer shadow of rejections that hover behind it. The jobs that might have been, the roles they dreamed of that they didn't quite work out, the red-coded fields on a spreadsheet. There's a reason this specter of rejection hurts so bad and sticks around with us for so long. This strong emotional reaction may have arisen out of an evolutionary need to be accepted by humans and to identify threats to our sense of social belonging. This is a psychologist who said this, and I agree. I talk about this primitive nature we have, this automatic brain, which only does is only programmed for one thing to protect us from danger, threat, or vulnerability. And when it detects that, it causes us to fight or flee. So if we're rejected, that's a danger. That's a potential that we could be left out, left behind, or squashed. So what does our brain do? It causes us to fight or flee that. So we either withdraw and don't continue, or we fight it almost in sometimes in aggressive ways, which also is counterproductive and detrimental to our health. In fact, a 2011 brain imaging study from the University of Michigan showed that social rejection triggers activity in the brain similar to physical pain. Again, emotional pain is a similar danger trigger to physical pain, despite the fact that those same regions are rarely activated in neuroimaging studies of emotion, said the study's lead author, social psychologist Ethan Cross. Psychotherapist Elaine Savard said social and professional rejection are similar in both their impacts and origins. When we're rejected professionally, socially, or romantically, it often takes us back to times of childhood when we didn't feel adequate. And our brains, I've talked about this a lot, our automatic primitive nature is the compilation of what's stored when we're children. And when we're children, we're little in the world, we're small in the world, and we have an inherent sense of vulnerability. And this often takes us back to that. Understanding the source of that feeling can help us navigate it and learn from it. When we apply for something and we get rejected, we feel invisible, Savage said. And that's an old feeling for people a lot of times. Old feeling for people a lot of the time. We're not feeling seen, we're not heard, and that's a problem that comes up in every kind of relationship. Despite the natural tendency to avoid those unpleasant feelings, to flee them, there's been a movement in recent years to normalize and even embrace rejection in all its forms. Social, romantic, and professional. Inspired by a viral TED Talk by Jia Jiang, the rejection therapy tag on TikTok has over 23 million views, with users deliberately seeking out and reflecting on social rejection to confront their fear of it. Again, fear is a fight or flight response, and that's caused from a danger. And when we're rejected, that triggers that danger. It's a danger trigger. In recent years, social media users have increasingly posted their rejections in an attempt to normalize it. Savage, who has written 2 books about the subject and nicknamed herself the Queen of Rejection, said she often uses this approach with clients to help them feel less isolated in their experiences. What's so hurtful about feeling rejected is feeling so alone, so vulnerable. So I try to help people realize it really is universal. In this same spirit, we asked our readers to share a professional rejection that stuck with them and what they learned from it. Taylor struck 29. In college, I applied for an internship in my dream city. I'll just kind of glance over this. However, I did find an internship at a place that would later hire me, but it wasn't Taylor's dream place, though, and set me on the path I am on today, including meeting my current husband. It really solidified listening to my heart and my gut. So this is interesting because uh, the feeling was if I don't get that internship, I'll break up with him. And it's very interesting because I had a similar experience when I was applying to medical school. I got rejected from the majority of medical schools I applied to. I got into one. And there's a saying, Groucho Marx has a saying, he jokes, he says that I would never want to be a member of any organization that accepted me as a member, right? So if they accepted him, it couldn't be very good, right? And that's the kind of feeling I had when I got accepted to the medical school I got accepted into. And well, it turned out that rejection turned out to be one of the greatest achievements of my life. Not only, of course, did I become a doctor, but I started doing karate, which occupied most of my life for probably 12 years as a outside interest. And in that karate class, I met my wife, right? So it was a wonderful thing. That rejection was wonderful. So if you look at it, sometimes, and also the Dalai Lama says that sometimes if we don't get what we want, it could be something like this. It could be a wonderful stroke of luck. So don't always be uh, upset if you're rejected because you don't know how it enters into your journey. Let's scroll down a little bit here and look at Paisley Simmons. In my senior year of college, I had 3 intensive rounds of interviews and a writing test for a BuzzFeed internship, and I still did make the cut. And I still didn't make the cut. It sent me into a spiraling depression. I waited tables for years, feeling like I wasn't smart enough to do the work, even though the facts, my degree, writing capability, and work ethic suggested that I was then and I am now. I actually ended up writing about the experience a year or so after it happened. As a society, we assign so much of our self worth to what we do and not enough to who we are. Boy, that's good. Who we are and whose we are if you're somebody like myself who believes in God. But that's a very powerful statement. Think about it. When we first meet people in person, we ask them what they do almost immediately after greeting. Online, many people's bios start with where they work or go to school. My reaction wasn't about anything that BuzzFeed did per se, but how we measure success communally. So important. I find it so funny that I go to a party now in my, you know, older age now, and people want to know where I trained, or where I went to school. I mean, really? Come on. I mean, you might use the excuse that, yeah, because maybe we have people in common that we know, but that was years ago, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, what difference does it, how does it pertain to my life now, except it's kind of a one-upping mechanism that our primitive nature does. We try to see where we are in that pecking order of things. So let's see about Ashley DeLuca's experience. I was 23, fresh out of college, and working at what I thought would be my dream job. My boss left after a year, and the person who replaced them was a shrewd and cutthroat manager. They regularly told me they didn't think I was good enough to work at such a prestigious organization. At first, I busted my butt to try to prove them wrong, but eventually realized I would never win my manager over. I finally left, but I never forgot that manager. I thought of them often in my following jobs, and it pushed me to always do and achieve more. At some level, that manager wasn't wrong. I was so fresh out of college, I didn't know any of my underwritten rules of office politics. I was green and naive. Her rejection of me pushed me to always do better. Spend a bit more time refining a project, take a new professional course, ask for more feedback. And now I have successfully started my own business. Sometimes I imagine meeting them now and telling them, yes, you may have been right about me then, but look what I've accomplished now. Rejection is still one of my biggest fears, but I have worked hard over the last several years to build my confidence so I feel empowered instead of crushed in the face of rejection. There are a few more stories here, and I encourage you to go to the link below and read them if you're interested. Let's just look at one more, an older adult, and let's see what her experience was. She's now 73. I lost my right leg due to cancer in 1967. It was a very difficult world then. At my first job interview afterwards, I walked into the room in a smart outfit. The gentleman conducting the interviews took one look at my prosthesis and said, "There is no need to come any further. We wouldn't want you a frontline worker with that," pointing to my prosthesis. Oh boy, couldn't get away with that now. His rejection infuriated me. I was a 20-year-old woman, and I decided then and there that I would never allow that to happen to me again without at least saying what I thought that day. And it's important to be assertive. You don't have to react and lash out, but to take a step back and assertively support yourself. I knew I had the skill set. I knew I could ace any job I took on. I started working with the War Amputees of Canada to change the mindset that young amputee women needed to look good if they wanted to be hired. That interview, or lack of an interview, changed how I looked at myself, also her course of her life and her career. I always got any job I applied for from there on out. So this is a very interesting article, and I encourage you to look at some of the stories that we didn't review in it. And it's always important to understand that, again, as I told you, my rejection actually was a blessing in my life. And not all rejections, in fact, virtually no rejections, are a comment on you. They are not about you. And if there is a rejection that may be about you and something, and your work ethic or something, you can learn from that. And I certainly had many experiences where I was rejected, and I learned from that. So anyway, I hope this article was helpful for you. Let me know about your thoughts and what you have to say about my thoughts. Subscribe to my channel. I know there's some good stuff here that may indeed help you with your life. And until next time, I'm Dr. Charles, a.k.a. CoachMD, urging you to stay strong in mind, in body, and in soul. Bye for now.
Dr. Charles, CoachMD. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like and comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If you think you have a friend who might benefit from this video, share it with them. For access to exclusive content, support my Patreon. There you'll get private access to videos, meditations, health tips, even relationship and financial tips. You'll have a say in what I produce and be able to participate in a monthly call with me. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you soon.